Hi, everybody. This is Tom with Culture Chap. So today, Olivia Hussey has died. She was the star of Franco Zeffirelli's Romeo and Juliet from 1968. Now, I know that it's a bit controversial for some people. I recommended this movie to others, and they don't like it because Olivia was 15 when she played the role of Juliet, which is really the character's age. But you forget that it's filmed in Italy and they have different rules of age of consent and when you are legally an adult, which is 14. So if you're going to get mad in the comments and say, this is terrible, this is too young, wherever you're living, which probably is the States, realize that other countries have different rules, okay? So she is an adult. She was appropriate to play this role. And I'm going to recommend you watch it because we all have access to it. Now, it's a tremendous movie, but like all movies that are older, or even 20 years older, much less this one, which is close to 60 years older, it gets forgotten about. But it really, I believe, is the ultimate Romeo and Juliet, which has been done so many times by so many theaters that I think we're a bit immune to it. We like it, but I know a lot of us out there may not want to admit we've seen some pretty bad ones. Some pretty bad ones. And I think that this one especially can be bad when it's put into modern dress. Not the movies, not the, we're falling in love in an aquarium in a pool kind of thing. That was interesting. But it really does make sense in period dress. Now, what period you want to put it in? I don't know. 1900, 1500, 1600. It's up to you. Obviously, these days, with the way theater is going, you want to make the most bang for your buck, and it may not be period costume for you. That may be incorrect. But developing your piece so that it does make sense and the actors know what they're saying, just like this film, is essential. Please watch this film. Look at what they're doing. Look at how they're handling the lines. Obviously, because it's a film and there's lots of money behind them, they know exactly what they're saying. But do you, when you're performing this role, or do you when you're directing this? Or are we so used to this classical play, like a lot of other classical plays, that we take it for granted? You and your actors, and if you're an artistic director or whoever else, you need to, if you're administration or directing teams, you need to give people access to everything that is being said. You need to give them tools like No Fear Shakespeare, which is not quite perfect as far as its meanings for each sentence, but it does break it down so you can get a lot closer. You should consult the Shakespeare Lexion as well. There's a lot of things online teaching how to speak Shakespeare and what they're saying in some of these lines. Take the scene where they touch hands. Well, when it's in period dress, the hand touching is very intimate. It may not be considered that intimate if it's in modern day dress. It depends how you direct it. But it's a big deal at the time. And they have discussions about it. And she says things like pilgrim and touch my hand and so forth. This all has meaning. Now, depending on where you live, even the word pilgrim has different connotations. What does Juliet mean when she says that? And are you casting people to play teenagers that are far too old in the way they look and the way they act to sufficiently convince people of this part? Okay? I'm not saying you need to get teeny tiny stick figure actors to play teenagers, but if they've had other roles in your theater where they've played their actual ages many times, and you're really trying to convince people that this 35-year-old is now playing a teenager, that's a problem. That can be a problem. Depending on the acting style, depending on the exposure of the actor, you need to consider these things. We see plenty of people on TV that are too old to play teenage parts. That's fine. But there's an intimacy, there's an immediacy, There's a, you're right there in front of me, or in front of me 50 feet away, but we're all still in the same room, kind of suspense of disbelief that is different than Daryl Hannah playing a mermaid on screen. Okay? There, you need to watch that. You need to watch that. And people really don't like people that are too old playing children or teenagers. You know, it's kind of like seeing 7-year-olds in a biker jacket that's leather. You're like, both are nice, but I think they should live in their own separate worlds. That's just my opinion. So be careful what you're doing and how they're portraying this. Maybe you have no choice to cast these actors to play these parts, but the way they portray teenagers has to be believable. The way they portray this innocence has to be believable. This movie has wonderful nuances, and sometimes when you see a very good show, you can't see it up close because of the price of the tickets or whatever, but you can watch a movie because it's all up close. Look at the way they look at each other. There's a reason more than just the line delivery of why this is a huge success, this film. And again, I don't think it's anyone's generation or whatever. It was an older film when I was a teenager and have been forgotten about. And I'm closer in age to when the movie was done than anybody else. So it's just trends and popularity of what's commonplace to your generation. Watch this film. It's an excellent film. And watch how they treat the parts. It's really well done. It's really well directed. Now, in your theater, don't try and copy this film because that'll always go wrong. Don't try and imitate a film. What I'm saying is look at their reactions. Look at their innocence. Look at the way they hold their eyes. Look at how they look at each other and how they relate to everybody else in the cast. There's a lot to be learned from this film. Just like when you watch Kenneth Branagh in Hamlet and you go, I understand. Maybe this is the first time many people have really understand all the nuances of Hamlet and the path he takes because they saw Branagh's version, which is so extremely well done, where you're like, I get the path he's taking, his twists and turns to get to this place. You know, okay. I foresee a lot more classical plays being done because you don't have to pay the playwright. And the name of the play sells itself. And among Shakespeare's 36 plays, a lot of them are history plays. I think 11 are history plays. And a few of the other that are not history plays are just not as popular. How often do we do Titus? There's a reason for that. How often do we do Timon of Athens? There's a reason for that. So in reality, there's very few Shakespeare plays that we continue to do all the time, and people get too used to them, okay? Especially directing them. Be the better company that does the better play, okay? And this is something we all have access to, this film. I think it's amazing. I would say it's the best Romeo and Juliet ever, but you may disagree. Hopefully you do an amazing one. And, like I've said in other videos, when your hesitation to do things in period costumes is because of cost. It just depends on your area. In the United States, you can get any costume from my former company, the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, and the money is different, the price of the costume rental, depending on what level of theater you are at. So if you are a community theater or just a regular theater, but for some reason you only have a few equity players, you're at a different level. It can be very cost effective. And if it's Romeo and Juliet, rather than a modern day telling of it, you are less likely to have multiple costumes for these characters, which is good. One costume per show, that's much more affordable. We accept that as an audience, that these people in the past had less clothing, but the one piece they wore all the time was very nice. We sort of don't accept it as much if they're in modern day clothes. Hopefully that's incorrect for you and you're a theater, but you never know. You never know. And sometimes this heightened language is just better in vintage era clothing. Period costumes. It's more entertaining to some audience members. Now, I've worked at a company where we got equal letters to say, equal as in 50% people hated it, 50% people loved it. I hate this in modern dress. Why? We didn't come here for this. I hate this in period dress. We didn't come to see a museum piece. It just depends on your area and your company. Anyway, so that's my pitch for them and period costume. I'm sure there's places all around the world where, depending on your style of theater, the costume rental may be very well priced. All right, so I'm putting links to the movie, and I hope you watch it, and I hope you enjoy it, and we'll talk again. Thanks. Please subscribe. Bye.